King Charles III has many residences. Grand palaces and castles across the UK. But there's one place that he can really call home. Highgrove, his country house in the Cotswolds.
It's not giant Windsor Castle with its manicured lawns, and it's not Buckingham Palace with the changing of the guard. It's something far more domestic.
It's where he finds peace and serenity almost. It's there that he can truly and utterly relax.
Unlike most of his other homes, the king didn't inherit Highgrove. 4 decades ago, he decided to buy what was then a fairly unimpressive Georgian manor house, but with huge potential.
It was the first home that he could call his own, and because it was a bit of a blank canvas, he was able to transmogrify it and make something of his own.
What Charles made was an informal home and a spectacular 15-acre garden full of whimsical touches.
And I always love gardens that have been created by one person, because they are invariably a window into the soul, and you see the character of the person who created them through the design that they've made.
It wasn't just the gardens, the house was transformed inside as well, creating a relaxing space for his new young family to enjoy.
Diana, I think, wanted a very homely look. She wanted to make it cosy, light, airy.
The boys loved it. They had huge freedom.
These go-karts arrived, and William and Harry were very excited. But unfortunately, we carved up quite a sizable area of the Prince's wild meadow.
It also became a favourite place to entertain celebrity guests.
The Spice Girls were helicoptered into Highgrove, had a lovely spot of afternoon tea, and helicoptered back out again.
Highgrove is a different kind of royal residence. Now we reveal what it's really like and how and why it's become King Charles's most loved private retreat.
The King's coronation in May 2023 was without a doubt the biggest moment of his life. It's a hugely important, significant and solemn day.
It's the first coronation in British history in 70 years. It's the first coronation in many people's lifetimes.
It was a big strain, I think. I mean, the King has said that they enjoyed the day, but I have to say that they looked quite uncomfortable at times.
As soon as the festivities were over, the King and Queen left London and headed to the countryside for some R&R. Not to one of their great palaces like Windsor or Sandringham, but to the much more modest and cosy Highgrove house. It's just 2.5 hours drive from London, but a world away from formal royal life.
That feeling after that massive thing of the coronation must be the most nicest, best feeling in the world, isn't it? I'm home, I can relax.
You can just imagine, can't you, them getting back there, kicking off their shoes, putting their slippers on, pouring a stiff drink and saying, whew, we did it.
So where exactly is this well-known laid-back royal residence?
Highgrove is in leafy, lovely Gloucestershire. It's a very beautiful part of the country. It's about 1 mile from the town of Tetbury, which is very beautiful too.
It's quite a posh area of England. It's very much the kind of riding, shooting, fishing domain.
Charles and his sons last month at his country home in Gloucestershire. This is where he'll spend...
The house, which has been Charles's family home for more than 40 years, had relatively humble beginnings. It started life as a fairly unimportant 3-storey Georgian country manor house. Built from ochre grey Cotswold stone, it was originally home to a local landowner, but definitely no one of royal blood or connections.
The house has changed a bit over the centuries, but nonetheless it's retained its Georgian structure. Some would say boxy, others would say handsome. 3 stories, rectangular, relatively unostentatious. I say relatively because compared to probably what you live in or I live in, it's a thumping great mansion.
Despite its unremarkable early years, Highgrove is now the King and Queen's much-loved private home.
Right, thank you. It's a private party.
Security is tight, and they almost never allow photographers inside. But these images from just before the then Prince of Wales moved in provide a rare peek at what has become their inner sanctum. The front door opens into a large hallway, complete with marble fireplace, that has doors on both sides leading to the reception rooms.
It's got 4 reception rooms in the ground floor of the house, the dining room, the kind of living room, drawing room, if you will, Charles's study, and the library. It also has this really incredible fireplace, which has dolphins carved into it in the drawing room.
So a house designed to entertain, but not so big it costs a fortune to maintain. You don't have these giant kind of Blenheim Palace style ballrooms, etc., that make you feel like you're rattling around.
But what makes Highgrove really stand out is the incredible transformation it has undergone in the last 4 decades. Particularly the creation of over 15 acres of stunning gardens, planned and nurtured by King Charles himself.
Highgrove is an idyllic, amazing place. There's amazing variety. There's incredible trees. There's a sundial garden. There's a walled garden, there's orchards, there's a time walk which the Prince laid himself personally digging it up. There's incredible topiary connecting it. I think that it's one of the great gardens established in the last 50, 60 years.
Those who are lucky enough to have been invited through Highgrove's large front door say the influence of the garden can be felt inside too.
The house is very elegant inside. The windows are almost always open because he's a great fresh air fiend. And the house bleeds out, if you like, into the garden. There's no sort of definable line where one ends and the other begins, and I think that's rather nice.
It just feels very homely, very relaxed, very informal, not too grand, not austere.
This is not Buckingham Palace. This is not gold on the ceiling. This is not priceless Vermeers up on the wall and gold furniture that you can't sit on and a gold piano that's worth, 500 million trillion squillion pounds. This is very much a country home where, Charles and Camilla have dogs. The dogs can run around. There's dog baskets everywhere.
It's friendly. It's not ostentatious. Yeah, you walk into the hall at Highgrove and you'll see his bits and bobs in a wicker basket.
There are wicker baskets that Charles can just pick up on his gardening shears. So just by the front door, that very grand front door, so that he can just pick up and go straight into the gardens.
Upstairs, the house has about 9 bedrooms and 8 bathrooms.
On the first floor, there are 4 bedrooms, 1 for Charles, 1 for Camilla, and each kind of suite of bedrooms comprises a bedroom, a dressing room, and a bathroom. There are 2 main guest rooms, the blue room and the green room, because that's their colour scheme. And then on the second floor, it used to be the nursery for William and Harry and for the nannies who would look after them. But now, obviously, William and Harry are grown up, so that's been converted into other guest rooms.
There's much more to Highgrove than just the house and gardens. There's a working farm and lots of space for the King's beloved horses.
He obviously has a huge love of horses. Highgrove had its own polo team, of which Prince Charles, as he was then Prince Harry, and Prince William were a member, and they stabled their horses there.
They're a beautiful stable block with lovely horses' heads hanging over the doors. You just want to go and give them a carrot. Some lovely stone barns there.
It is a collection of all sorts of buildings, and they've grown over the years, really. The Prince has added the orchard room, built in 1998, and that's a real function room and somewhere he can invite all sorts of people and have events, just not being in the house itself, but you're at Highgrove all the same.
There's also an outdoor swimming pool, a 1981 wedding present from the British Army, and accommodation for the royal staff who live on the property.
They have cottages that have been used by staff throughout the years, really pretty cottages with sort of white picket fences, but also a more modern kind of one-storey building that staff have used as well.
Only the family's police protection officers sleep in the house itself.
The police room, as we called it, was very much on the sort of the top of the house, butting onto the nursery. I always enjoyed staying there, this country house, with a view across the Gloucestershire countryside.
The in-house police protection is only one of the many security measures protecting the royals at Highgrove. This is no longer an ordinary country house.
What made it even safer, really, was the resident police post that was actually situated almost outside the back door.
There's a police station on the grounds. There's a no-fly zone over Highgrove. It was added to a list of places that it's illegal to trespass.
And over the decades, the King's Garden has matured, overlaying the necessary security with a green veil of privacy.
What I think is the most interesting thing about Highgrove House is that it has a steel panic room in it. You have things like chemical toilets, long-lasting food, there's medicines, all kinds of things in there.
There's quite a lot in it, including the blood types of Camilla and Charles. So if something goes awry, they've got life-sustaining equipment inside this panic box.
Because in the 80s, I think the fear was that there would be a risk of kidnapping of the two young princes. So ostensibly, that is why this room was built. William and Harry knew of its existence, they knew what it was for, and they knew that in the event of something going wrong, they knew exactly what to do, as indeed we did. But all I will say is that thankfully, we never had to use it.
Actually, someone did get locked behind Highgrove's steel doors once, but not because of a security threat.
Well, we'll see. I'm feeling energised, but it's...
By all accounts, the only time it's been used was by Rory Stewart, who was the Conservative MP and once tutor to Princes Harry and William. But he apparently once got trapped in it.
I'm not sure how that happened. Maybe maths just got so boring they decided to all play a game, but he has actually been locked in the panic room. He has been rescued, though.
Despite the precautions, there have been a few security breaches at Highgrove.
There were some drunk Welshmen who managed to kind of climb over one of the walls and kind of were sort of marauding around in the grounds.
Right, thank you. Okay, fine, thank you.
I believe that they weren't near enough the actual house to be convicted of trespass. I think they just got a warning. Since then, the rules have been tightened up, and I think that if you do venture on the property, you can be nicked. So I recommend you stay away.
I think the security breach for me that's a little bit more sinister was a man who was discovered within 100 feet of the house with a sack and a pitchfork. Now, he said that he was looking for scrap metal, but it was 4 a.m. and more worryingly, King Charles and Camilla were asleep in the house. They were in residence.
That's alarming, but, thankfully that person was detained. I mean, that's the whole point about security. It may well have been breached, but as long as it doesn't achieve the end result, the injury of whoever's inside, then the security has worked.
Thankfully, the only people who have got inside the building have been invited guests, including plenty of famous names. They often bring a gift for their host, and what better than a little something for the garden?
You think, what on earth can I give the king who must have everything he wants? But obviously the garden's an easy turning point. So Elton John, I think, gave him an Indian bean tree, a golden form.
Pierce Brosnan, in his Bond era, gave the king a magnolia tree, and Sting gifted the king hundreds of bulbs for his wildflower meadow.
It's not just celebrities who are welcomed inside the stone walls of the Highgrove estate. Since 1996, when the king decided to open his very private garden to the public, 40,000 paying visitors come every year for a guided tour of the grounds.
40,000 is an awful lot. That's a heck of a lot of people to come to your home. And I really admire the king for opening up like that. It means a lot to him to show it off, but I'll tell you, people get such pleasure from it.
It shows, I think, great generosity of spirit that you have a place which is very precious to you, which is your private sanctuary in the largest form, to open it up and share it. But gardens are to be shared. You can't make a beautiful garden, shut the gates and say nobody's looking at it.
Access to the gardens costs £34.50, or £98 if you fancy a champagne tea in the orchard room afterwards. The money, along with sales from the Highgrove shop and other garden events, goes to the King's Foundation charity.
I'm here as an ambassador for the Princess Foundation, and basically we're celebrating Windrush, NHS, and just anybody who's 75, or people who've done stuff in the community.
The tour's popularity is all the more extraordinary when you realise that just over 40 years ago, when the then Prince Charles started to put his stamp on Highgrove, there was no garden to speak of.
He's totally transformed it. He's made it one of the most spectacularly presented gardens in the kingdom.
It might be something of a jewel in the crown these days, but in 1980, Highgrove was a fairly uninteresting country house with no previous royal owners. So how did Charles end up buying this unlikely property, and why was the purchase so controversial? In the late 1970s, Prince Charles was the world's most eligible bachelor, an athletic, adventure-loving prince who turned heads wherever he travelled.
Look very good.
Takes you back.
He was the kind of playboy prince. There were lots of pictures of him associated with good-looking women. He was often seen in his polo outfit.
But by early 1980, the prince was 31 years old and ready to settle down. He had marriage on his mind, but before he picked a wife, he needed to find a home. As heir to the throne, he had the rights to the stunning Chevening house in Kent, a 115-room Palladian mansion, but he barely used it.
It was kind of in the wrong direction from London through lots of suburban traffic.
Another strike against Chevening was that this historic house and its ornate gardens were overseen by a board of trustees.
In other words, even if you're the Prince of Wales, you don't have free rein over your mansion in Kent. And this bothered Charles, who anyway felt, especially in the late 70s, that he wasn't master of his own house. He was the Prince of Wales under the Queen, with a pretty challenging father in Philip. You know, a lot of people sort of telling him what to do.
So that year, Prince Charles renounced his claim on Chevening. Instead, he asked his staff at the Duchy of Cornwall, a private royal estate that provides an income to the heir to the throne, to find him somewhere more suitable.
The Duchy of Cornwall owns land and properties all across the country, actually, not just in Cornwall, across 23 counties up and down the United Kingdom.
The Duchy has these enormous estates, like large amounts of Dartmoor, large amounts of the West Country, bits of the Oval, which are able to make profit from the land.
The prince asked his team at the Duchy to look for a house west of London in Gloucestershire, an area he already knew and loved.
One of the most wonderful counties in England, very easy to get to from London, easy to get to from Wales, just a marvellous, idyllic place.
So this was really a part of England that spoke to Charles in a way that Kent didn't. There was his love of horses. There was his love of agriculture, of biodiversity, and his friend group. And they were all based in Gloucestershire, his sister Anne in Gatcombe, which was a wedding gift to her and her husband.
His head steward soon spotted an advertisement for Highgrove. The property wasn't very grand, but it included 347 acres of land, woodland and a small farm, situated a mile southwest of picturesque Tetbury.
When Prince Charles is shown the listing for Highgrove, it's exactly what he's looking for. It's a smaller country house. It has 9 bedrooms. It also has substantial land, but not cultivated or curated land. So it is something that he would be able to mould into the kind of estate and farm and home that he wants to.
The listing and its potential got the prince's attention. He wanted to know more about Highgrove. This wasn't a typical royal property with a long family history.
There was no kind of, Queen Victoria had a bath here, King George died there. There was none of that ghosts of Christmas past, if you like.
Highgrove was built in 1796 to 98, the height of the Georgian era, for a man with the unusual name of John Paul Paul.
The Pauls were of Huguenot descent. They have the land by the late Georgian period, but in order to afford the building of the house, you need a good marriage, which is what John Paul Paul achieves. Hence, you get the commission of Highgrove in the late 1790s.
It's believed Highgrove was built by Anthony Keck, a popular local mason architect who designed lots of similar houses in the local area.
It's okay, don't go to Wikipedia if you haven't heard of him. Lots of people haven't. He was local. He predominantly designed local houses, about 50 of them.
He's a very safe pair of hands. And when he does a good job for one family building their home, They recommend him to another family, and so on and so on.
At Highgrove, Keck created an elegant but simple country manor house with a distinctive Venetian arched window above the front door. Although modest by royal standards, it would have been an impressive home for a country gentleman and his family, large enough to host balls and entertain the local gentry.
This was a house that spoke to individuals who were part of the great and the good. Not the top rung of aristocracy. They were part of that class that looks after the community, magistrates, justice of the peace, so forth. The events they would have put on, the balls they would have held, the shoots they would have had, would have been high points in the local calendar.
The house continued to play its part in the life of the county set for nearly a century, until in 1893, a disastrous fire gutted the interiors and caused some of the building to collapse.
After the 1893 fire, major restoration work needs done for Highgrove. The astronomical sum of £6,000 is spent on the renovations. Unfortunately, the owner doesn't quite get his money's worth.
There's quite a shoddy refurb that goes on. There's this sort of balustrade around the top that's solid and uncomely. I think that later Charles refers to it as austere, or a word to that effect.
Highgrove seemed destined to become an increasingly unimportant country seat until the 1960s, when it was sold for £89,000 to a prominent political family.
Highgrove takes a bit of a step up in the social hierarchy of country houses when it's bought by a trust of the Macmillan family. It's bought from Maurice Macmillan, who is a son of the Tory Prime Minister Harold Macmillan.
Good evening. This afternoon, the Queen did me the great honour to ask me to form a government.
Like his father, Maurice Macmillan was a Conservative MP and would later serve as a cabinet minister. The family's importance meant the house was now visited by some very prestigious guests, including its future owner's mother.
During Maurice Macmillan's time at Highgrove, some of his visitors included Queen Elizabeth II and the Queen Mother, and we know this from a throwaway comment that's made by the Macmillan family's nanny years later to the then Prince Charles.
That the fender Prince Charles was leaning on had also been sat on by his mother and his grandmother, the late Queen Mother.
Under the Macmillans, Highgrove wasn't just home to a British Prime Minister's son, it also housed the son of an American president.
It speaks to the almost celebrity that the house acquires under the Macmillans, that in 1975, for a year, General Elliott Roosevelt, that is incidentally the son of the famous President Roosevelt, who was Churchill's ally during World War II, he comes to live in Highgrove.
Roosevelt was an author who lived in England, and the Macmillans rented Highgrove to him for that year.
Unfortunately, it wasn't just the great and the good who became aware of Highgrove in the 1970s.
What was the first you knew of the raiders? Well, 3 men armed, brandishing revolvers, or pistols rather, burst into the room.
There is a spate of country house robberies in the 1970s, and in many cases, these country houses have relied on the invisible walls of the class system keeping people out. As that declines in the 1970s, houses like Highgrove are hopelessly unprotected for when it comes to a crime spree.
In 1976, thieves broke into Highgrove and made off with 2 artworks, a carriage clock and some small pieces of silver. But this wasn't the first time the house had been raided.
We know that because the Macmillans joke, oh, well, they were probably looking for the silver, but they didn't find it because that was taken in the first burglary.
So it shows you just how frequent these robberies were in the 1970s and how the landed classes and the aristocracy still weren't really catching up to how they needed to improve their security systems.
It wasn't just the house's security system that needed an update. By the time the Macmillans put it on the market in 1980, Highgrove and its gardens was somewhat neglected.
But they didn't do much with the house. They weren't interested in gardening.
When I first saw Highgrove, I was sort of 13 or 14 years old. It was just the lovely rambling country house, the kitchen with a sort of Aga flagstone floor. There was nothing that you could describe as an impressive garden. Even me, age 13, 14, you realised that they weren't out deadheading the roses every night. Probably weren't any roses to deadhead. It was just an also-ran garden that you sort of blinked on passing.
Despite this, when Charles visited in early 1980, he fell in love with the place.
It was sort of nice room proportions, lovely vistas, including the spire of Tetbury Church.
He loved the surrounding wood pastures, the sort of trees in the parkland. But I think primarily it was the fact that he could do almost anything with it. He could really make the house look something special. With a bit of imagination, he could really do something with the garden. He could carve out a home that he wanted.
Charles also fell for Paddy Whiteland, the irreverent Irish groom who had been running the estate for many years.
He was a survivor of the Second World War. He'd been in a prisoner of war camp. He was an Irishman who just captured the king's heart straight away.
He understood the way in which Highgrove worked and what you want when you move into a house like that, which is more than a house, it's an estate and a business and a farm. You need continuity. You can't put everything up by the roots straight away. And Charles, who can't live there full time because he's the Prince of Wales, needs someone he can rely on and trust, someone who'll talk truth to power, which, by the way, Paddy did.
And when he saw Prince Charles, I think on one of those first occasions, Charles, who sometimes rode as an amateur at races, he said, "I saw yous ride at Chepstow the other day. I thought you was going to fall off by the way your legs was flapping."
Prince Charles was sold. He asked the duchy to put an offer in for Highgrove.
They exchanged contracts on the 29th of September 1980, which is a traditional day when farms change hands.
For £865,000, Highgrove now belonged to the Duchy of Cornwall, with Prince Charles named resident for life.
To raise the money for Highgrove, the duchy liquidated some assets. They sold 3 other country properties that they had and various agricultural properties. In that way, funds were generated to purchase Highgrove without having to have any recourse to the public purse.
Still, the purchase was controversial. Chevening Trust had already spent £1 million to prepare that property for the prince. Now the duchy was spending more money on a new home for Charles.
He has the right to take a view, and so have we.
One of the major critics of the Highgrove purchase was the Labour MP for Wood Green, Reg Race, who described it as an outrage that the Highgrove had been purchased, even with duchy money, at the time it had been, given the Prime Minister's policies towards cutting back public spending, because Highgrove would require a significant amount of public money to make it safe and also to provide the around-the-clock police protection that it would henceforth require.
And in response, a spokesperson at the Duchy of Cornwall says, well, he only has apartments in Buckingham Palace and in Windsor Castle. Well, at 31, you want a place of your own.
But there was possibly another reason Charles wanted to buy Highgrove.
What's telling about the purchase of Highgrove is that rather than Charles getting in there with a paintbrush and stipulating how he wants it to be decorated, he says, magnolia, whitewash it, leave the walls as a blank canvas.
There's not really a great stamp of his personality. And that leads to speculation that he thinks that soon there is going to be a woman at his side, a wife, who will want to redecorate Highgrove as she sees fit.
Prince Charles was about to introduce his new girlfriend to the house of his dreams. But would she share his vision for the humble country house? In February 1981, Highgrove got a special mention in Prince Charles and Lady Diana's engagement announcement.
Are you planning, you must be planning for the future, where you're going to live and this sort of thing?
I mean, I've got this house in Gloucestershire, which I acquired last year. There's a lot to be done. It's going to be marvellous to have somebody to help sort it out.
4 months earlier, Charles had taken Diana to Highgrove and made a special request of his then-girlfriend.
He asked her to mastermind the decoration, really. She was a little taken aback, actually, because we weren't even engaged, and I thought it was really rather improper to ask me to do this, but he clearly liked my taste.
Rather than turning to a traditional royal decorator to help her with Highgrove, Diana hired a South African interior designer named Dudley Poplack.
Dudley Poplack's style was really a light-hearted take on grand English country house style with a fresh palette of colours, greens, yellows, whites, that would really have brought the interiors of Highgrove to life.
Diana, I think, wanted a very homely look. She wasn't looking for a regal residence. She wanted to make it cosy, light, airy.
It was quite fresh. It was like accents of lime and lemon, yellow walls. It was comfortable sofas, lots of scatter cushions. Charles is a very accomplished artist, actually. So there's lots of paintings of his on the wall.
Only one public photograph has ever been released from inside Highgrove after it was decorated, showing a small corner of the sitting room.
This very much speaks to the ideas of privacy that Highgrove's always been invested with since the Prince of Wales has taken over ownership. But we do have images of Kensington Palace at this time in the 1980s, when it was the same interior designer, Dudley Poplack, and overseen by the same princess, Diana. And if you look at those pictures, it speaks to the 1980s in so many ways. OTT, frills, chintzy, bright colours, scatter cushions. Not only is no expense spared, but also this isn't about restful, beige, tasteful interiors.
As much as the Princess of Wales liked frills and ruffles in her clothing, she also clearly liked it, judging by the interiors of Kensington Palace. And they feature very highly in the curtain treatments in particular.
In her 20s, when she is helping design Highgrove and Kensington Palace, she's a kid, more or less. And as a result, the interiors are invested with a playfulness that wouldn't otherwise be associated with royal palaces. It's fresh, it's eye-catching, and it's fun.
While Princess Diana took charge of decorating inside, Prince Charles focused on the huge task of creating his dream garden.
With Highgrove, that was the King's chance to put his own stamp right from the beginning on a garden. It was, to all intents and purposes, a pretty blank canvas.
Charles was starting from scratch. In his early 30s, he had never really gardened before.
He wasn't that interested or knowledgeable about gardening as a young man growing up. He just sort of enjoyed being in gardens. And I think he particularly enjoyed his grandmother, the Queen Elizabeth, the Queen Mother's gardens, especially at the Castle of May, at Birkhall and at Royal Lodge. But none of those gardens were particularly innovative.
Isn't it delicious?
Absolutely lovely.
So there must have been something inside of him, a sort of itch for creativity.
Kind people did do a little digging and snipping and all that sort of thing. Yes, they were all very helpful.
It is extraordinary because although the Queen Mother was known to love her gardens, you don't imagine that she was passionately, actively gardening the way King Charles has done since buying Highgrove. So obviously something triggered in him.
Charles had big ambitions and lots of ideas, and he had access to the finest gardeners in the country to help him get started.
When you're the Prince of Wales, you can call in quite a lot of favours. You can ask people for their expertise, and that's what the Prince did. In the early years, Lady Salisbury from Hatfield House gave him a lot of valuable advice.
Molly Salisbury was able to transform and put her ideas into practice, famously Hatfield in Hertfordshire. And she was an early believer in the organic movement, in not doing as was the fashion in the middle of the last century, which was to spray everything with pesticides and herbicides and rigidly control things.
Although controversial at the time, the Prince was determined that the Highgrove Gardens would follow her example and nurture nature, not fight it with chemicals.
In the 1980s, it was considered sort of madness that you would garden organically. And he was made fun of, and when he said in an interview that he spoke to his plants, and people thought, oh, this is eccentric.
One of the first areas that Charles transformed was the run-down walled kitchen garden.
It needed a bit of love. It needed a bit of TLC.
Shortly before he'd bought it, it had been used as a piggery, I think, but he felt madly in love with it from the start. I mean, he's made it a work of great beauty as well as a work which gives you great produce.
Maybe chefs would wander along to this walled garden and certainly pick produce for the Prince, who was very insistent on eating his own produce.
Another early change Charles made to the garden was planting more than 0.5 kilometre of yew hedges around the perimeter.
The Prince is normally very open, but on this occasion he insisted that it should be a very private affair. No cameras inside.
When they first moved there, they were the most photographed couple in the world. And the paparazzi used to hunker up by the drive, and then you could see right through to the garden. It wasn't a very private space, and so it was imperative to get some good hedges growing pretty fast to give them that much-needed privacy.
Charles also began a massive programme of tree planting across the estate.
From the start, he was incredibly hands-on, particularly about the gardens. And he would stand on the front doorstep with a megaphone, directing operations, like a film director.
Highgrove was beginning to take shape as the weekend home for the Prince and Princess's growing family.
In the early days, they were actually quite happy at Highgrove. It was their family home with their 2 young boys.
This was the bolt hole for fun from Kensington Palace.
The boys loved it. They had huge freedom when they were very little, climbing frames in the garden. They dressed up in their little army uniforms. There was a ball pit.
The ball pit they had, or Diana had installed into one of the outbuildings. I'm going to say a ball pit. This was a massive hole of 5 metres by 2 metres and a metre high of those red multicoloured plastic balls that you were thrown into. And it didn't matter who you were thrown in at some point. Diana was very much involved in that and would encourage William to push us in or push them in.
And you absolutely have this idea of them playing and Diana playing with them, and very much a freedom that they could enjoy. They had pets, they had guinea pigs, they had hamsters, they of course had horses. I mean, it's a paradise in many respects. And the kids even had their own toy Aston Martin with leather interiors and a cassette player. No expense was spared. So they had their own go-karting track.
Diana herself enjoyed go-karting. These go-karts arrived, and William and Harry were very excited, invited 3 or 4 of their friends across. And William had the sort of just William way, had actually mapped out the circuit around Highgrove, where this Highgrove Grand Prix was about to take place. But unfortunately, we carved up quite a sizable area of the Prince's wild meadow. And we repaired it. It was fun, it worked.
The Wildflower Meadow, an area of natural planting near the house, was one of the first changes Charles made to the Highgrove Gardens.
It's an amazing piece of creativity. It's full of butterflies and hoverflies and moths and bees and birds.
And it is a pleasure being in Highgrove and standing in a wildflower meadow, a path that goes through a wildflower meadow with alliums and narcissi and tulips and things coming through, which is wild and woolly, and then wildflowers in summer. It exudes passion and joy in gardening.
As Highgrove's gardens became more and more beautiful, the austere grey facade of the house, particularly the boxy balustrade built after the 1890s fire, began to stick out like a sore thumb.
Charles was never happy with the exterior, and Charles likes to fiddle. So in 1987, he had the idea, and used a graphic designer friend to implement it, of putting a pediment like this with a window, and then ionic columns at the top of the roof line, and 4 urns on the corner.
He made all sorts of quite sympathetic, modest interventions to the house. And he added an entire new extension, which gave him an opportunity to have a larger reception room and a study for his private secretary.
With these renovations, Prince Charles helps make Highgrove an elegant royal residence in the way, of course, it had never been before.
However, Highgrove was changing in more ways than one.
Highgrove was renovated in 1987. Of course, this coincided with the breakdown of Charles and Diana's relationship. So we're really seeing Highgrove move from a family house with Diana and Charles to more of Charles's domain.
Prince Charles began to spend more time at Highgrove, not just the weekends, but during the week as well.
I mean, he adored it. That was everything that he'd made it from the purchase from Macmillan way in the early 80s. And so, in that sense, it in a way reverted back to him personally.
Highgrove became Prince Charles's main home, and it soon became clear more radical changes were on the way. By the early 1990s, it was becoming clear that Highgrove was more than Prince Charles's country home. It was his passion project, particularly the gardens.
In the early 90s, I was invited to tea with Prince Charles at Highgrove. The Prince was really keen to show me his time walk, something I'd never heard of. I thought, what on earth is he going to show me? What does he mean? And he led me outside to the pathway that leads out of the back of the house. And he said the idea is he planted lots of herbs along this pathway. And as you walk and you tread on some of them, the fragrancy comes up and it is very beautiful. You can smell these delicious herbs as you walk along.
I remember him saying that this was always an ambition of his, that he wanted to walk on this time walk to get this scent of thyme and the herbs. I mean, this was classic Prince of Wales. He would give William and Harry a trowel or a fork. And I remember these trays of variegated thymes, he instructing William how to plant within the sort of cracks of the crazy paving that led from the house on a fair journey down the garden.
The time walk runs between a row of golden yews that Charles was advised to remove when he first moved in.
Golden yew was thought to be a wee bit naff.
But the Prince had always loved topiary and had a vision for this unfashionable row of yellow domes.
He was told that it wasn't a good idea to have these golden yews down the time walk. Well, he flew in the face of that and said, no, I like them and I'm going to make topiary shapes. And he allowed his gardeners to decide what shapes they wanted to do.
And it was a bit like a Mad Hatter's tea party. They could just choose any shapes they wanted.
They look like sort of igloos or a big fat melon or crowns, sort of peculiar, almost jester's crown. They're most unusual. So the whole thing, you think, gosh, I've never seen anything like this before. But it was very special.
But the garden was more than something beautiful to look at. It was a chance for the Prince to put his principles into practice.
Never let it be said that the Prince is straight down the line ordinary. I mean, he's quite extraordinary in lots of ways. And one thing I wasn't expecting to see at Highgrove was how his sewage system worked. Again, he was very proud of the fact that it is a reed bed system.
The Prince's sewage garden uses a series of bark pits, reeds and willows to process all the wastewater from Highgrove.
They just slowly filter the water through several different levels and it just takes out all the nitrates and things like that.
The butler at the time says that the Prince of Wales wrote a memo to him saying, could you please ask guests not to put tampons and condoms down the loo as it's clogging my reed beds. So there's a rather graphic vision, but it shows how complete the king was in terms of implementing his ideas.
The Prince's nature-first principles at Highgrove went way beyond the garden.
Highgrove is not just a garden, it's also a farm, which in 1985 Prince Charles started the process of converting to fully organic methods of farming.
After 11 years of farming organically at Highgrove, during which time we have learned a great deal, notably from our mistakes, the farm really has, I think, begun to respond to the treatment, and the system is clearly working in practice. The farm is profitable, and we now have premium outlets for nearly all our products.
Those products are now so successful that Charles's Duchy Originals line, which began with bread made from Highgrove oats, is now owned by Waitrose and is the largest own-label organic brand in Britain.
Which is astonishing that this began as an idea in the Prince of Wales's head a few decades ago, and now it's nationwide.
But it wasn't all about the gardens and land. The Prince didn't neglect the house. He also decided it was time to make changes inside Highgrove.
Charles worked with a very influential interior designer called Robert Kime. Nothing matches in a Robert Kime interior, but everything is beautiful. So there's a mixture of antique furniture, Persian carpets, wonderful paintings which will be idiosyncratic, mixture of old masters, but perhaps something innovative.
Kime's designs for Highgrove would have been a far cry from the lime greens and yellows of the Dudley Poplack era.
The interiors would have had a very different colour palette, much more based on reds and browns, and a lot of textiles from the Middle East, which is an area where Robert Kime travelled extensively, buying up rugs and fabric.
The Prince was clearly impressed by Robert Kime's work at Highgrove, as he asked him to decorate Clarence House when he inherited it from the Queen Mother in 2002.
I think Clarence House is classic Robert Kime. It took a very, very sympathetic approach to the interiors. They had a real sense of comfort and familiarity which Robert managed to summon up through combining furniture and fabrics that really made people feel at home.
The newly decorated Highgrove was much enjoyed by the prince's weekend guests, including some of his favourite entertainers.
Emma Thompson paid a visit there, Kenneth Branagh as well, Barbra Streisand, who King Charles was a huge fan of, spent some time there as well.
Barbra Streisand chose to have a breakfast in bed, and suddenly she was rather surprised when her bedroom door was thrown open to see a then Prince of Wales, Charles, searching for his lost dog Tigger. She was a bit like, oh my goodness. I think she thought that obviously everything would be stood on ceremony, including her host. But no, it's his house, he'd lost his dog, he could go anywhere he wanted to look for him.
Sometimes, however, it was the visitors' behaviour that was unpredictable.
Buckingham Palace is just up the road, and she's in. Go and get her.
One of Charles's absolute all-time favourite comedy acts, the Goons. So one of the house guests was Spike Milligan, and he spent the night sleeping on the floor of the bathroom of the Blue Room suite instead of in his bed. Perhaps too much vintage claret had been consumed that night before at supper.
After his stay, he sent a plaque back to Highgrove and said, Spike Milligan slept here. Now, we're not sure if it was put on the floor in the exact spot where he slept in the Blue Suite or it's on the mantelpiece, but he certainly wanted to remind everybody that comedian Spike Milligan, had stayed at Highgrove House.
Charles's most frequent visitors, however, were a group of his close friends who lived nearby and shared his love of horses and the countryside. They became known as the Highgrove set.
The set is as much a feature of Gloucestershire country houses in the 1990s as it is in the 1790s.
The Highgrove set, of course, included Camilla Parker Bowles, as she then was.
After Charles's separation and later divorce from Diana, Camilla was often present at Highgrove entertainments.
I think people were always very pleased when Camilla was there at a dinner party or an event, because she innately brought, and still does, a sense of informality, joviality, mischievousness, and general joy, actually, to the proceedings.
Camilla lived close to Highgrove in a 6-bedroom house on 17 acres called Ray Mill, just across the border in Wiltshire.
When Camilla bought Ray Mill House and these 17 acres of land, the garden was pretty plain, there wasn't much to it. Meanwhile, Highgrove Garden had been thriving and really been doing beautifully with all these plants and flowers. So King Charles III sent a whole bunch over to Ray Mill House so that Camilla could establish her gardens as well, build them up and make them as beautiful as Highgrove.
The Highgrove Gardens were definitely impressive, but for Prince Charles, the work was still unfinished.
I was going there and driving up the drive on a very wet day in the 90s. And there's a sort of wide verge at the side of it, and there's all these tree stumps, sort of higgledy-piggledy, massive great trees. And I thought, what's going on? And then it dawned, this was the start of the stumpery.
It was originally a Victorian idea to have lots of tree stumps which form almost like an architectural, sculptural area, and then to grow around them and on them bulbs in the spring, and then hostas, and then ferns.
There's this weird wooden, it's like architecture, but it's just nature and the way the stumps have been laid down. It's like a magical woodland. You feel you've suddenly gone into Midsummer Night's Dream.
After more than 15 years shaping Highgrove into a very personal garden, Charles made a surprising decision.
In 1996, Charles took the rather unusual decision, really, to open his gardens to the public. I personally think it's because he was so proud of what he created. He wanted to share it. He wanted to show it to people. He wanted to inspire people.
A lot of people were beginning to realise that he had a lot to give, and a lot of people wanted to see it. Why would you keep something like that secret?
But what he had created at Highgrove was far from the formal stately gardens that people expect of a royal residence. How would the public react when he opened the gates?
Arriving in style for their tea with the princes, this way at least, the Spice Girls could ensure the visit.
One of the more surprising celebrity visits to Highgrove was in 1998, when the Spice Girls, who were clearly quite comfortable around the royals, came for tea at Highgrove with the then Prince Charles and Prince Harry.
Imagine you're obsessed with a singer, a band, and because your dad is Prince Charles, you could just invite them to tea. And I've always wanted to ask Harry, actually, was he delighted or was he mortified? Because when you're a teenage boy, it must be amazing to have your kind of a literal dream come true, to have, you know, this girl band that you adore and to come. But also, was it not mortified to have to do it with your dad? And yeah, anyway, Harry won't tell us now, will he?
I think the Spice Girls being helicoptered in for afternoon tea was definitely an interesting moment in Highgrove's history. And I mean, you had all these scores of young people at the gates queuing up for the Spice Girls, but obviously for Prince William as well.
The young fans had to wait outside without a glimpse of either the pop princesses or the real royalty. But Highgrove's gates were no longer always shut to the public. 2 years earlier, paying tour groups had started visiting the gardens.
I think visitors to Highgrove all come away with a sense of wonder, almost, that it's quite unlike the formal gardens you'd find in so many royal palaces, that in places nature has gone a bit wild.
The tour gives visitors a rare glimpse of the king's inner self.
To see a garden which has been very much made by one person is to have a window into their soul. It doesn't matter who you are. A garden that you create reflects your personality.
Like the fact that Charles has placed some of the many busts he's been gifted over the years in the hedge in the sundial garden.
He jokingly said, I think it should be called the ego garden because it's full of me, 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 me. But it's a royal garden and, you know, a lot of people want to see him. And if they don't get to see him in person, at least they can see his busts.
They looked amazing. I remember the prince saying, you know, what do you think of the bus? Well, I'm no art critic and I couldn't really say anything, but I said, what's interesting, sir, is that the sculptors all see you differently. I mean, not one sculptor is the same. And he said, yes, I know. He said, but you know what the common denominator is. I didn't quite know what he meant. I said, what do you mean, sir? He said, well, says they always get my bloody ears right. And I thought it was so good of him to say that.
I had a personal tour of the Highgrove Gardens, which was such a delight because he is such an enthusiastic gardener. He told me that delphiniums are his absolute favourite. And the way he was kind of looking at them and smelling them, you could tell that this was a man who knew every plant in his garden.
Charles may only be seen in sculpture on the public tours, but he's sometimes a lot closer than visitors realise.
He's a great one for having windows open, and occasionally he's in residence when these parties come outside. He'll go up to the window and he'll listen to what they're saying. And I think once or twice he's ducked down below the window.
I'm told that sometimes after the public have visited and he's in the gardens in the evening, he'll even go round collecting rubbish using one of those grabbers. Once, apparently, whatever the rubbish was, it burst and covered him in something unpleasant. But this is real hands-on stuff from the king.
But the opening up was worth it. Charles realised that Highgrove could become a showcase for his organic beliefs and methods.
And so the orchard room was created as an entertaining space.
Built in 1998, the Orchard Room provided a visitor centre for the garden tours, as well as a community function room and, at times, royal banqueting hall.
It's a single-storey building with a very high-pitched roof of Cotswold stone tiles, and it's got a lovely feel to it with stone-flagged floors and big old carpets.
The Orchard Room is dedicated to Charles's right-hand man at Highgrove, Paddy Whiteland, who had died the previous year.
Paddy Whiteland was part and parcel of the fixtures of Highgrove. And whenever I went there, he was always there. His loyalty, without question, was to the Prince of Wales.
You get an insight into how highly the Prince of Wales thought of Paddy Whiteland, who dedicates it to Paddy and makes a point of telling people everything I have done at Highgrove is only possible because of Paddy Whiteland's support.
Although Highgrove was opening up and being used more and more for Charles's work with his charitable foundation, it remained the family home for his now teenage sons.
The deal? We smile for the cameras now, then you leave us alone until the autumn. It is an annual event, although it's not normally conducted.
To really get away from it all, William and Harry liked to head down to the basement, where they had a private den they called Club H for Highgrove.
They managed to pilfer some furniture from different royal residences, so Persian rugs, Moroccan sofas. They had a huge, very loud, but apparently not very good stereo in there. And that's where they and their friends would gather.
And it was where they could drink. As Harry said, it was a well-stocked drink trolley, which some careful pilfering always made sure that they had beer and wine and probably gin, vodka, strong spirits. And there was a big vent, he says, so it was quite airy. It wasn't as perhaps subterranean as you might think. And he said you can smell Parr's flowers, lavender coming through. I mean, really? Could you, Harry? Could you? Or were you just a little bit, it was just the alcohol fumes?
Well, it's definitely true that scent was an important part of the royal gardens. By 2001, Highgrove had become a destination garden for the public. But what would the gardening elite think of Charles's abilities? Inspired by 2 Persian carpets in one of the rooms at Highgrove, he decided to enter the world-famous Chelsea Flower Show.
His mother, the Queen, stopped by to see his work, the so-called carpet garden.
The late Queen would acquire plants at the Chelsea Flower Show or be given them, but never before Charles was a monarch or heir involved in designing a garden. I think it got a silver medal, and I'm not sure if the Prince of Wales was pleased with that. I think he would have preferred a gold, but it was bold of him to put something out there and to be judged.
After the show, the carpet garden was installed near the orchard room at Highgrove, where it's become a visitor favourite.
You go into the door and it's wow. There's this huge mass of colour and a fountain bowl going over an octagon, coloured tile work.
And I think the Persian carpet garden actually looks much better at Highgrove Expanded than it looked at Chelsea.
But more than anything, the gardens have always been a deeply personal project for the king, a passion he now shares with Camilla.
Both Highgrove and Ray Mill have very lovely gardens now. And it was actually rather lovely that at their wedding, the flowers came from both houses. So very personal touch, and showed how much that part of the country, particularly Highgrove, means so much to them.
Highgrove is now Charles and Camilla's family home. But what will happen to this favourite royal residence in the future?
Leaving Buckingham Palace for the last time on a gun carriage, the coffin of Queen Elizabeth.
The days following the death of Queen Elizabeth II in September 2022 were a very challenging time for the new king.
My life will, of course, change as I take up my new responsibilities.
But there was one place that remained a familiar source of comfort and peace.
He had a couple of days of quiet time amidst all the responsibilities of taking the throne and touring the country, and they were spent at Highgrove. It's a great battery charger, Highgrove, for the king.
The king has even built a small chapel on the grounds known as the Sanctuary. Sanctified by the Bishop of London, it's one of the few places he can be completely alone.
I know nothing about the sanctuary apart from its outside, because I've never been in. Because I think the thing about the sanctuary is that it's his private space. And I think, goodness me, if anybody needs a place that nobody else goes in this life, it's him.
Despite all the changes at Highgrove, it's always been the family home. When Prince William started dating Kate Middleton in the early 2000s, they would often spend the weekend there.
There's nothing like having your photo taken on your birthday.
And there was an occasion they were in Tetbury, which is the local town about a mile away, and the crowds and the media, it has to be said, got very excited about her there and surrounded her. And so she had to take refuge in a dress shop.
Today, William and Catherine's children enjoy the freedom of Highgrove's gardens.
I remember going round the Highgrove Gardens and seeing a little plaque, and it said that it was a balsam poplar that had been planted by Prince George. Now, this was 2015. So I suspect a 2-year-old Prince George probably wasn't digging out the ground to put the tree in, but it's really sweet because it turns out that Charles and George had planted this tree together, and this tree has grown in the last 9 years really tall, just like Prince George.
Visitors on the Highgrove tour are often told about the grandchildren's garden games.
The grandchildren in their treehouse have to look out for Chompy Bob, and Chompy Bob is a slug-eating dinosaur.
Who knows how Chompy Bob first came into being, but he lives in the stumpery in Highgrove Gardens.
One of the most recent additions to Highgrove is a family of life-sized elephant sculptures designed to promote the conservation work of the Elephant Family Charity, set up by Camilla's late brother, Mark Shand.
And wherever my brother is, I'm sure he's praying that they'll make a lot of money for the charity. And looking at them, I mean, how can you resist them? They are very lifelike, aren't they?
The elephants will certainly be widely seen. Highgrove now receives up to 40,000 visitors a year for garden tours and events.
So it's become very commercial. That long drive from the road now that took you up into Tetbury is far more formalised. You get shunted in by way of signs to a car park.
Highgrove has become a busy place, hosting many events and functions. Perhaps that's why even after her marriage, Camilla kept her nearby home, Ray Mill.
Ray Mill House is where Camilla, our queen, can be Camilla as she used to be, where she can put on a pair of jeans, some muddy Wellington boots, potter around the garden, have a large glass of something or other, and not worry about everything being tidy and formal and perfect.
Even though he now owns a huge portfolio of properties, Highgrove is still one of Charles's favourite places to spend his weekends.
Highgrove speaks to Charles. It's somewhere where he is master of his own kingdom. The walls have grown in his time there, the trees have grown. It's private. I think for him it's very emotional.
So much so that even when the king is away from home, he reportedly takes a bit of Highgrove with him.
So he takes a Highgrove hamper, and in that he has 6 types of honey that he has for his breakfast, along with jam and oatcakes and other bits in there as well. But also he likes to gift hampers to people.
I suppose the question even plagues royalty, what does one give the Pope? And he goes to visit Pope Francis in 2017, and he takes with him Highgrove produce.
But they're all homemade, they're things from that I produce.
He gave him a hamper of Highgrove products and, made sure that the Pope knew that this was all things that he made himself, all produce from Highgrove.
But even though Highgrove means so much to King Charles, it's not technically his house anymore.
A curious consequence of Charles becoming king is that he no longer has the Duchy of Cornwall, and Highgrove is part of that duchy.
The Duchy of Cornwall estate funds the Prince of Wales, not the monarch.
So now technically, Charles is his son's tenant, which is interesting. I hope they don't fall out.
King Charles III now has to pay Prince William, who is his landlord, around £650,000 a year to live at Highgrove House.
I think you'll find the money still in the royal family.
As king, Charles has had to step back from the day-to-day management of Highgrove. He gave up the lease to the farms a few years ago, and his charitable foundation now runs the gardens, tours and events.
I think the fact that the King's Foundation is running the garden now is really a look to the future. And I think what the King's doing is making sure that Highgrove will continue to work and that it's safe and it's secure.
That doesn't mean Charles has hung up his trowel, of course.
The king, even while convalescing from his cancer, has been gardening and has been ordering new trees for Highgrove.
He's taking what he learnt at Highgrove to his other property portfolios, Dumfries House, Sandringham, Buckingham Palace.
We're going to have a turn.
The gardens at Buckingham Palace are quite boring, and that there's a lot more wildflower meadows now and a lot more nature and naturalism at Buckingham Palace, and that's literally come from Highgrove, because that really was like his practice garden, so to speak.
But what will happen to Highgrove in the future?
Highgrove has been so influential as a kind of idea and so remarkable as a landscape. I think it will continue to be open to the public for decades to come.
It may be that one of the new generation will one day want to live there. I mean, we have George, we have Charlotte, we have Louis. And of course, for George, it really would be like going home because he's got his own little corner of the garden and the tree he planted when he was a very young little boy. So who knows?
One thing's for sure, the king may have transformed Highgrove, but the once humble country house has also had an impact on the king.
The king has been working on Highgrove for a good 40 years. It's not just his garden, it's really the heart of all his environmental concerns, all his passions. And I think the king's legacy will be not just the garden, but the whole environmental concerns that really are spin-offs from the garden.
But more than anything, it's been a personal haven and sanctuary.
As king, he has many palaces at his disposal, but he'd never had a home that he could call his own and could mould and transform. And that's what Highgrove has been for him. And I think in difficult times, it's been a refuge. It was a wonderful site for his kids to grow up. It's been really, really important, both in mind and soul and for his stability.
Highgrove may have started life as an ordinary country manor house, but today it can claim a place in the first rank of royal residences. Its now stunning grounds are a mecca for garden lovers and royal fans alike. But at the centre of it all is the house, a very personal home for the king and his family. Here, in its relaxing, comfortable rooms, he can step away from royal duties and truly be himself.
So should we just check we've got the last little final marks in there?
Yes, I did it all.
We kept it I think we put it our Lord Jesus Christ. So just do that.
Can I just borrow your pen?
Yes, of course.
A second.
I think the Christmas speech is enormously important. This certainly is an historic one. It's the first one that hasn't been given by Queen Elizabeth for many, many, many years.
Do you want me to do that one? Yeah. I'm standing here in this exquisite chapel of St. George at Windsor Castle, so close to where my beloved mother, the late Queen, is laid to rest with my dear father. I'm reminded of the deeply touching letters, cards, and messages which so many of you have sent my wife and myself. And I cannot thank you enough for the love and sympathy you have shown our whole family. Is this?
Yeah.
With all my heart, I wish each of you a Christmas of peace, happiness, and everlasting light.
We were right at the end of our summer holiday, and my phone went, and my chief of staff just said, London Bridge. And it was an extraordinary moment.
A few moments ago, Buckingham Palace announced the death of Her Majesty Queen Elizabeth.
This is someone I'd known and deeply admired and respected. Someone who'd always been there, all the things that everyone else felt. Plus, I suddenly thought, everything we've practiced for, everything we thought about is now going to happen.
In my case, it was purely serendipity that I was there. And I'd been in 2 days up on the West Coast, and I was coming back, stayed the night, and was going south. We always enjoyed being in Balmoral. We spent a lot of time there in our youth, and there was, a lot of it was probably more independent life than almost anywhere else. That's probably still true. That's a bonus. I think there was a moment when she felt that it would be more difficult if she died at Balmoral.
The salad is ready.
And I think we did try and persuade her that that shouldn't be part of the decision-making process. So I hope she felt that that was that was right in the end, because I think that we did. My mother's funeral in St George's, when he takes the crown off the coffin, I rather weirdly felt a sense of relief. Somehow that's it, finished. But that was that responsibility being moved on.
To my darling Mama, as you begin your last great journey to join my dear late Papa, I want simply to say this. Thank you. Thank you for your love and devotion to our family and to the family of nations you have served so diligently all these years. May flights of angels sing thee to thy rest.
To be honest, I'm not sure that anybody can really prepare themselves for that kind of change, or at least not easily. And then the change happens and you go, okay, yeah, I now have to get on with it.
The plan is it's the two of them together in white, and then Her Majesty second, and then it still stays white, and then King Charles third, and then rotate it once to black. Okay.
The reign of King Charles and Queen Camilla is a new era in the history of the monarchy. At the heart of every successful reign, there's a strong partnership. To celebrate that bond, the King and Queen are having their first official portraits taken by royal photographer Hugo Bernand.
I think about every photograph I take. What is the information that the viewer is going to take from this? What are they going to feel? How are they going to interpret it? When you look at the photograph, I want you, the viewer, to feel like you're in conversation with the person in the photograph. And you're going to turn more towards the light. And you're on the spot. We've spent 2 days here practicing, lighting, kicking ideas around. It's almost like you guys aren't on the right spot. I'm sure you are. It's just that I'm not getting the red chair in, which I was getting before. So go a bit closer to, yeah, that's better. That's perfect. Work it, work it, work it, which is not what we're going to say to their majesties. It's always fun. It's just always fun. We have a bit of a laugh, and I think we get nice pictures.
Good morning, Your Majesty. Thank you so much for asking us. Not at all, not at all. How are you, Your Majesty?
How are you? Nice to see you.
Now, I'm just going to quickly let you know what we're doing. We're doing one picture here of the pair of you.
Yes. Right.
Then I'm going to do a picture with just you very quickly.
Right, sir.
So I'm going to ask you, sir, to step aside. Then I'm going to do the opposite, and I'm going to take one very quick picture of you on your own. Now, toes, yours are together on that one.
Yes.
And then
Okay.
I just need you to come back a fraction this way towards me to there. Brilliant. And so can you get your that foot on that one?
Good Lord.
And this is all so we don't have pillars coming out of people's heads or chandeliers coming out of ears. It's incredibly well organized.
Okay.
One question I want to ask you is,
Far away.
are we allowed to that hand?
Yes, yes.
Is it allowed to go there?
Yes, right.
It's
Brilliant.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's so nice, this. The daylight, we've got spring daylight, actually for real, but we've lit it as if it is just spring daylight. And so can you just turn very, oh yes, you did, just very fractionally that way. Yes. That's it. And then, and straight to me, like that, with that. I love it, I love it. That is how quick we are.
Very good.
The great thing about these particular pictures is they are the first official formal photographs, but they're not so formal. I am really pleased. I think they're really great people, and I want that character to come through. I just think they're both individually and together fantastic. And I hope that some of that comes through in the pictures. That's what I really want.
Charles III is not just King of the United Kingdom, he's also head of the Commonwealth. Only weeks after his accession, he's hosting one of its most important leaders, the South African president, Cyril Ramaphosa.
Monarchy is a 365 days a year occupation, and it doesn't stop because you change monarchs for whatever reason.
President Ramaphosa, welcome. Evsheni, Dumela, Suabona, Molo, Molweni, Nda.
Wow.
Mr. President, my wife and I are delighted to welcome you to Buckingham Palace this evening.
It's a big operation. The amount of entertainment is much bigger than even they recognised. But I think my brother, he's learning things about the organisation that he perhaps was very vaguely aware of before, and he's quite enjoying that too.
The coronation has been scheduled for the 6th of May. So major alterations are underway on the treasures which will be the centerpiece of the ceremony, the crown jewels.
I'm Mark Appleby and I'm Crown Jeweller, which means that I look after all the fantastic regalia, crowns, jewellery and silverware in the Tower of London. On this occasion, we have been asked to modify 3 crowns for the up-and-coming coronation on May the 6th.
Each monarch's head is a different shape. So for every coronation, the crowns must be adjusted to fit the king and queen.
We need to remove as much of the pieces that detach before we start our modification. And at the moment, I'm in the midst of taking off the Mond and the cross patty, which holds one of the most famous sapphires in the world, which date back to 1066, the St. Edward's sapphire. The legend has it that it was worn by Edward the Confessor, and as he was being interned into Westminster, when they opened the coffin, he was still wearing this sapphire as a ring. So incredibly, it's found its way into our imperial state crown.
One of the most spectacular jewels in the imperial state crown is a diamond known as Cullinan II.
Cullinan number 2 comes from a large family of 9 major stones. It sits in the imperial state crown, where its big brother sits in the sovereign scepter. This diamond weighs just under 320 carats. It's D colour, It's a flawless diamond. It's just one of the most historic diamonds in the world. It's just so priceless that I don't think that you could put a value on that stone today.
This is the St Edward crown. It's the oldest piece of, almost the oldest piece of coronation regalia. It was made in 1660, modelled on a crown that was melted down, courtesy of Oliver Cromwell. This is entirely gold, 18-karat yellow gold, and is incredibly heavy. It was reduced in size for George V. I've got to put those pieces back now to get it back up to size. Well, in many ways, this is the most important piece of all. We have the imperial state crown that everybody's familiar with. Her Majesty wore it for state openings and so forth. It's a very nice crown, but this is several centuries older, and the idea is that when this is placed upon someone's head, at that moment, that person becomes the monarch. So if you like, this is the object of coronation.
One of the most important duties of a monarch is that of commander-in-chief. Leading our armed forces and supporting allies and friends. Today, the King is visiting Ukrainian troops who have been trained in the UK before being sent to the front line.
So this is Andre.
Pleasure to meet you, Supreme Commander, Lieutenant Colonel.
No. And are you here for some weeks?
Yeah, I just came in January and plan to be here as long as I can. So, but according to the plan, we plan to stay here till the July.
You are amazing. I don't know how you do it. Full of admiration.
Yeah. Most of them, they came from civilian lives and they have never been before the militaries and don't know how to manage but the weapons. And after the 35 days, they become a real soldiers who is ready to go to the front line.
Доброго дня, я Алекс, я з України, мені 32 роки. То я працював вчителем, мені подобалася моя професія, географія, біологія. Зараз стою в лавах Збройних сил України.
Are you halfway through the course?
Ви десь на половині свого курсу чи вже?
Так, половина.
Oh yes, they're just at the halfway point.
They're working you quite hard.
Ну і надіюсь, вони вас вижимають сак.
Good. There's so much to learn.
Дуже багато навчитися за цей період.
Да.
Oh yeah.
Для мене це дуже хвилюючий момент. Я ні в своєму житті не сподівався, що буде зустріч з королем. Це дуже велика постать в нашому житті. І кожен би, напевно, хотів бути на моєму місці і мати таку унікальну можливість. Але я радий, що це випала саме ця честь мені.
And are these the weapons
І
you
це, власне, є
use
зброї, які ви будете використовувати в Україні?
Так, Калашников.
Oh yes, the model and the Kalashnikov version.
And I hear you've been
І, власне, чую, що ви
having to dig
мусили багато
trenches.
копати тут.
Це нормально, нам знадобиться українці.
Oh yeah, it's very useful.
The king spoke with them and of course it motivated them to fight better and better. Because if you're alone, it was difficult to fight. But we are not alone. Long live the king and thank for all your country.
It isn't only the king who's shouldering new responsibilities. The Queen is also taking on a range of new roles,
Here we are again.
including an association with one of the most decorated cavalry regiments in the British Army.
Her Majesty the Queen has been appointed our Colonel-in-Chief, and
This is really her first day in that role.
Hello, Richard.
Hello. Your Majesty. Well, it's lovely to see you. And Your Majesty. And on such a great day. I know, really exciting. Yeah, exactly. Hurrah.
This is an official role with a personal connection. The Queen's father was a lancer during the Second World War.
He was a troop leader in the 12th Lancers who took part in the Battle of El Alamein. He was chasing across the desert and decided to attack what he thought was some transport and logistics, fairly soft target. Turned out that it was actually Rommel's headquarters and was rather more heavily defended than he was expecting. Unfortunately, in the engagement, his vehicle was blown up, his gunner and driver were both killed, and he was seriously wounded. He got 2 military crosses, which is pretty unusual. So, yeah, very, very distinguished war record.
Well, I'm sure wherever he is today, he'd be absolutely thrilled that, you know, I was now doing this role.
Well, we are equally thrilled now.
And today, there's an extra cause for celebration. Michael de Burgh, a former Lancer, is 100 years old.
What Her Majesty is most interested in today is that you enjoy today and, of course, the really exciting and important celebration.
To mark Michael's centenary, Queen Camilla has invited him to Clarence House.
Where's the hand?
Oh. There we are, Michael. Many congratulations.
Thank you.
How nice to see you again.
I'm so pleased.
There you are. It's pretty showy.
Well, birthday present, which is absolutely fantastic. I never expected anything of that sort, especially from lovely new Queen. Heave me up.
No. Oh, yeah. Please don't. I'm coming down.
Oh, no.
I'm coming down, so you can't get up.
She's a lovely person, and we're very lucky to have her.
I've known her a long time, off and on. Her understanding of her role and how much difference it makes to the king has been absolutely outstanding. And this role is not something that she would have been a natural for, but she does it really well.
Oh, that's it.
Right way down. That's something you have to take with a fantastic life.
And she provides that change of speed and tone, which is equally important.
During the coronation, Queen Camilla will be crowned alongside the king. With the coronation countdown underway, more than 20 embroiderers are working round the clock to finish the robe the Queen will wear as she leaves Westminster Abbey. Layers of gold thread and pearls are being sewn into 4 meters of velvet to a spectacular and very special design.
We were very keen to tell a story, something that was very personal to her. So there's elements from childhood, birthdays, family, marriage. We've got myrtle, which symbolises love. Chrysanthemums, joy, tenderness. We have our wild garden here along the bottom, and as the design travels up the robe, you'll notice we've got some beautiful spring flowers, because May, a time of awakening and hope and new beginnings. Lily of the Valley, which were in her wedding bouquet. One of my favourite flowers, actually, is the barley here, which is representative of her childhood and growing up in the countryside. Nestled beautifully and not lost is Her Majesty's cipher here. Yeah, I hope she loves it.
Hello, how are you? Nice to see you again.
Nice to see you. And they're going to show you around and the work that we've been doing.
See what's been going on.
So who did the actual design?
Wow, the whole team
Oh, the
here.
whole team.
So it was a bit of a collaboration. So we did lots of research. So a very naturalistic gardening theme, you'll notice.
Yes.
Some delphiniums.
Oh,
Mm.
very good. Well done.
Yeah.
Love the butterflies here and there too.
So we've got a little caterpillar on here.
I'll
as
come
well.
back in.
Yeah.
Yes. Oh, this is another, what is that? No, dandelion.
That's a
Yes,
dandelion.
yes.
You see, look, that's the
Yes.
dandelions, Liz.
Yes, exactly. So very, oh, good, yes. Oh, look. Splendid.
The clock is also ticking for another group of artists whose work will take centre stage. The Ascension Choir has been chosen by the King. They're the first gospel singers to perform at a coronation.
I was brought up with an appreciation for gospel music. It's one of the veins of music that really talks about the human condition. Today we are going to have our last solo rehearsal. Make sure that we are absolutely ready for the day.
I was in the middle of making dinner and Bim calls me up and I just made a noise and it was the sort of noise my husband came running. He was just like, "Are you all right?" I'm like, yeah. Yes. The answer is yes, and whatever you need, yes. It was very special. My mother-in-law loves me.
Sing praises unto our God. Sing praises, sing praises unto our King.
I mean, people ask you, have you met the King? I mean, you meet the King, but, you know, we're not talking about the football results and, you know, he's not coming around my house for a cup of tea. You know, you meet him, it's for a limited amount of time. He's very nice. You're very nice. It's very pleasant. He's very funny and very knowledgeable about music.
King of all the earth, for God.
I think it's important at such an amazing moment in the country's history to represent the beauty and the diversity that really exists, you know, in the United Kingdom.
The King has a range of new responsibilities. But he also has historic commitments. One of these is to the organisation which, for the last 5 decades, has borne his name. The Prince's Trust. Set up to support underprivileged youngsters, it has now helped over 1.2 million people. Today, the King is meeting Prince's Trust award winners and patrons.
Yes, as I pass on
Your
Is
Majesty.
it really you?
It's yes. How are you? Good to see you again.
Your Majesty.
We missed you yesterday.
And
Your
I'm so
Majesty.
sorry about
It wasn't half as good a show without you.
That's the problem.
So how many years have you done?
That was our 11th yesterday.
Was it?
Yeah.
You are astonishing, by this.
We love it. We love it.
Amazing record of loyalty to devotion.
Well,
The King has also invited Prince's Trust beneficiaries from the past.
You look the part, mate. You look like you just fell out of Debenhams window.
Oh, thank you very
if
much.
it was still in business.
Well, I was going to say, that way the Super Bowl.
People who were helped by the charity nearly 40 years ago.
I left school in '78. Didn't do overly well in school. Wasn't motivated to do well. It was a very difficult place to get employment in Liverpool at the time.
Most of the big employers had kind of left. So we were starting to see our fathers losing their jobs as well. There was no sense that you were going to get a job, so why bother looking?
They were really dark times, I suppose. The only news that was coming out of Liverpool in the 1980s was bad news.
Bad news.
Your Majesty. Mr. Graham Ray. Nice to meet you.
Ah.
Yes, exactly.
Hello, sir. How are you doing?
Because did I not meet you in those years?
1986.
I do remember. Yeah. Was it not a car cleaning? Was it started on that?
Rags and Wipers.
Rags and Wipers, that's right.
Wipers, sir, yeah.
Wipers.
38 years.
38 years?
38 years.
You gave us £3,000 in 1986, and it lasted 38 years. So we've created quite a substantial business up there. All down to you.
There was a friend of mine who says, why don't you go and speak to the Prince's Trust? We didn't realise that it was the Prince of Wales who was behind it.
They start asking you questions. What are you going to do? Impress me. Sell yourself to me.
Something being there at that moment ignited something.
And they said, they'll give you £1,000.
Now, you either take it and run and go get drunk with it, or you take it and go, I think I'll do something with
This is Willy Wonka's ticket.
So we just kept on going, head down, kept on going.
Since it began, Ray Brothers has employed more than 250 people.
Oh, hard, sir, as well.
We've stayed in Toxteth. We've employed people from Toxteth.
We built a business that lasts for 40 years. He made it possible.
I'm so glad about that.
Thanks, sir. It's lovely to see you. The transformation now, what you're seeing now, to what it was when you gave us that money years ago, unbelievable. It's a great place.
All that Albert Dock area.
Yeah.
So,
it's brilliant. You played your part, well done.
What,
in everything.
That's right.
I don't want to blow smoke at the guy, but to tell you the truth, if I ever envied anything, it's not the palaces and the wealth and the stuff like that. On my crib sheet, when I meet me mate and said, hang on a minute, I helped 1 million kids here to actually come out from an underprivileged area. I changed a huge amount of people's lives.
Yes.
That's my claim to fame.
Yeah.
The winners, if you let your hard work and your glee just rise up, coming out of your cheek muscles and coming towards the cameras over here, and we are done. Thank you very much.
With the coronation fast approaching, preparations are intensifying. Many of the items at the heart of the ceremony are handmade, including 2 pieces vital to the crowning of the King and Queen.
My name is Philip Tracy, and I'm a hat designer. I got a phone call from the King's office to ask if I would do this, and it took me a few weeks to actually take in what was involved. I've had a great experience designing hats for incredible events and incredible moments. When you work with the royal family, you're working with history. It's a different dimension. Cap of maintenance is a term that's been around since, I believe, the Middle Ages, and it is a term that was used for the cap which sits inside the crown. And the cap of maintenance is actually what fits the head. It basically stops the crown from becoming a necklace. So it actually is what's holding the crown on the head. We started by making a cross-section of Their Majesties' heads, and then we had exactly the template made in wood of the point of contact of the crown. This was the original lining from St. Edward's crown, so then we replicated because it's an ingenious way of keeping something very heavy on. It's a beautiful purple velvet. And then this is a white Duchess satin. As we build up the layers of material, that starts to add up dramatically, and suddenly something very two-dimensional becomes three-dimensional. It was fascinating to work on something like this because all fairy tales come from these crowns.
Crowns and robes are eye-catching symbols. But coronation is first and foremost a religious ceremony. And the mysterious ritual which lies at its heart is anointment, when the monarch is touched with holy oil.
It starts in Jewish history with the anointing of kings. So it's at least 3,000 years old. And that was always done as a symbol and sacrament of the Holy Spirit filling the person being anointed.
For the coronation of Charles III, anointing oil is being sourced from the birthplace of Christianity.
Some of these trees on the Mount of Olives, they go back to the time of Jesus. You know, we're talking about over 2,000 years old olive trees. And these trees have witnessed a lot. They may have held the hands of Jesus during his passion. These olives were picked prayerfully, knowing that, you know, the king will be anointed with this oil.
After being picked and pressed, the oil is taken to the place where Jesus' body is said to have lain after crucifixion.
That oil resembles God's wisdom given to the king in order to carry out his responsibilities as leader of the community, to lead God's people in all righteousness and all truth. By the power of thy Spirit, bless and sanctify this oil. Trying to be the king or the leader of everybody is not an easy task. We will always pray for him. So this oil may be to King Charles a sign of joy and gladness. And I would think that this is his greatest gift, that he will be the king of all the British people, now and forever. Amen.
The route to the coronation was endless rehearsal. In the last couple of weeks, we went to Buckingham Palace, and the ballroom was set up to scale. That is, with all the names of the countries of the... Oh, I won't distract you. I hadn't seen it before, I just admiring
It's quite something.
It is.
Here we go then. Left. I'm Sergeant Major David Roper from the Grenadier Guards. There's a point in the coronation where His Majesty the King will be anointed with oil. My part is to command the 6 non-Christian officers from the household division who've been selected to bear what we call the anointing screen, which is a large screen that forms 3 sides of a square around the anointing so that the private part of the ceremony can be conducted. Right, we'll do screen 1, then we'll do 2 and 3 as a oner, okay? Raise. Quick, march. We've spent a lot of time rehearsing to make sure the choreography will be just so on the day. We've rehearsed on a nearly daily basis for about 10 days now, and of course that will heat up more in the final week before the coronation. Here we go then. Quiet in the cheap seats. We get to form a small but an integral part of the process of crowning the sovereign. Concentrate on keeping it upright. Good, nice and steady now. Good. And yes, showing our devotion as members of the household division. Stand by, stand still.
The part of Westminster Abbey where the coronation will take place is known as the theatre. A replica of the theatre has been built inside Buckingham Palace. Here, each stage of the ceremony is meticulously rehearsed.
So we have to imagine then that the King's procession has gone in. So
we're in place.
Yes, Mr. Dean, if you be up at the and Archbishop of York. I'm Mark Birch. I'm the precentor of Westminster Abbey. I'm hoping at this point you will bring the fold stool out for the King. A precentor is the person who looks after the services in the Abbey. As Her Majesty comes through, Bishop's assistant moving either side of her. So that's Norwich and Hereford. And I'm trying to remember which side you're on. It's my job and other people around Their Majesties to make sure that they're really comfortable with all the movements and all the different elements of what is quite a complicated service. So going that way, so across the page, Norwich, perfect, you're on the right. We've got a huge procession of about, I think it's about 70 people, all going to different places in the Abbey, holding different things. So we've got to rehearse them very, very carefully and make sure that all the timings work as well.
To familiarise themselves with their roles, the King and Queen are attending the rehearsal.
So, there will be a little bit of time while the Gloria finishes, but at the end of the Gloria, the Archbishop will say, "Let us pray," and then we all stand. I guess we're about halfway through our rehearsal schedule, so then you're given the words to say. Everybody's tremendously focused on getting it right, and there's just a great sense of all working together to make sure that everything runs smoothly and beautifully and gloriously as it should. This is a kneeling moment, I'm afraid. If Your Majesties would kneel, then everyone else around you will stand.
After the
Yes. I wonder whether they are maybe quite a long way away.
They're quite a long way. You don't want to have to step.
There are still bits that confuse me. I mean, the bits with the swords, I still have to think through very, very carefully. And so that was said when you were holding it up to the altar.
Oh yes, receive this kingly sword. Yes, absolutely.
So then I give a sword to you.
Yeah.
I keep passing sword back.
No, they saw us.
You say a prayer.
Look at your right hand. I've penny
Upright,
this
penny grasp it by the
Yes, and hold it upright.
upright.
It's all cloaked in the mists of medieval chivalry, and so it's not surprising that it doesn't make a lot of sense necessarily. So then a prayer of thanksgiving is made for the oil that's been brought from Jerusalem, and then the screens come around. What I get from these rehearsals is just clearly what a great, hugely meaningful moment this is for both of them. With the King, you get a real sense that this means everything to him. Then the Dean approaches, carrying the crown with the Archbishop.
I say a prayer with the crown up there, and then slowly lower it, tipping forward.
Yes, you have to jam it on, so it has to come down to here first.
Just above your eyebrows.
Here first, and then push down.
The King has been in high-profile public life for a long, long time, but this is the moment when as it were, he takes on literally the whole weight of his office, the weight of that crown. It's not just symbolic, it's actual, it's about the weight of kingship.
I don't want to break your neck.
They won't.
Like ruin the service.
I promise it's so huge.
Yes.
It's got to be on right, and I can't do anything about it.
Quite.
It's a role like no other that he's taking on. And I think all the ceremony and the glory of the coronation all reflects the sense of just the sheer significance of his role.
I'm Graham Usher, I'm the Bishop of Norwich, and my role at the coronation is to be one of Her Majesty the Queen's bishop assistants.
Your Majesty, we finally got to the... We're about to crown you.
Oh, you're right.
Sorry. Would you kneel for the anointing?
Yes, right, okay.
I think she's entering into it with great humility.
A tiny bit of oil, I promise.
Just a dab.
A dab.
A dab. It is the merest dab.
The
A
merest.
day in her life that is going to be quite incredible.
So,
There we are.
I just dip my fingers in the end and go, I turn to the king.
Indeed.
Your Majesty.
You've got to say yes or no.
If you don't say anything, if you don't nod or indicate, sir, I can't crown Her Majesty.
Don't bother to look. I'm very happy to
She has been immensely calm during the rehearsals. Also quite clear as to what she would like or how she thinks that something should be. Her sister will be standing right beside her.
Yes.
Her grandsons and a great nephew behind her as her pages. And I think she will be carried by that love and support of her family and the wider royal family and everyone gathered in Westminster Abbey.
With the coronation just days away, the King and Queen are inspecting their modified crowns.
We have Martin Swift, Crown Jeweller before myself.
It's taken months of painstaking work to alter the regalia.
What we'd like to do is show you a little of what went on behind the scenes.
They're a great deal easier to wear like that.
God. What a task to have to start the chopping.
Yeah.
From what we can see, there are 8 slit pieces that have been made to make it smaller.
Yeah.
So I think what we're actually doing is bringing it back up to the size it used to be.
But this has happened for generations.
The last happened, we think, in 1911. There was some alteration done to it from when we opened it up, we saw.
It was very much a hands-on type of crown, this one. Given that it was made in 1660, by some poor souls sitting in a very cold workshop.
Goodness me.
Possibly with daylight, more likely by candlelight.
Without specs.
Yeah,
Yes.
without specs in those days. It's incredible engineering for the time,
And
really.
with plague and goodness knows what, and fires going on.
This may not be instantly recognisable.
Yes, that's imperial.
It is.
My grandma was had a very small head.
Yeah.
Because it didn't have to be redone.
Redone for that, yeah. Or it higher, maybe higher up.
Yes, it's
As far as we can tell, it wasn't made smaller for her. So I assume that your grandfather had quite a small head as well.
He did, I think. Because the really interesting thing is that little
And that goes in now.
Ruby on the top.
I still have a feeling a plume went in it or something.
Correct.
That is the legend that Henry V had his plume on his helmet at the Battle of Agincourt.
It's so wonderful, that.
Yeah, it's an amazing piece of history, isn't it?
Yeah.
To prepare for Coronation Day, rehearsals have moved to Westminster Abbey.
So request, could it not touch the gilding?
Okay.
There's going to be a lot of business with robes on this side.
Fine, so I'll just stick to the original.
Please.
Happy. No, right.
So we're now at 3 days, I think,
till the coronation. There have been so many different rehearsals. We started very small, just a small group rehearsing with the King and Queen, and that's now expanded to a kind of cast of thousands.
So this is the bit we've been constructing for the last week or so to enable the procession to come in without any steps onto the theatre. A rather beautiful carpet, and as you can see, they've done the mouldings from the choir stalls. So my name's Paul Baumann. I'm the Receiver General here, which is the equivalent of a Chief Executive of the Abbey. So you'll come up here, and today we're welcoming the Princess Royal.
It's changed from yesterday, Mum. The
seating plan will probably change before Saturday, so don't let's worry about it, OK?
She's coming to check the route of her procession in, and then more importantly, the route of her procession out.
And at that stage, am I joining in the procession?
Yes. Yes.
OK. I think for everybody who took part, it had to come together. And it was no good somebody going, oh, I'm just turn up on the day and read the bits of paper. It's not going to work. Right, and the Sumerian door is the one down there?
I'll show you. It's the one we came in fact, but I'll show you also the room where you can leave your cape, your cloak behind. Yeah.
Really want to see the route out, and I don't think it's ever worth taking somebody's word for it. The other thing is that you have to leave it late enough so that after the television cameras have appeared and put their wires down, that you can still get out the door you thought you were going to get out. You may know where you think you're going, but you know, by the time the television are finished, maybe not so easy.
I just remember walking into the Abbey, and in every corner there were people practicing various things. It was very well organised chaos.
The other arm.
Right, so we've got Louis here. Back here.
I keep calling it a wedding. It was extraordinary because it did feel like a wedding, and people kept referring to Annabel and I as the bridesmaids, which we really didn't like very much. But it did set, if you like, a wedding because it was a family occasion. It was in a church. It was very serious, and yet it had a fun side to it.
That's on. How does it feel?
Because it's up on the thing.
You want us to move you forward?
Everybody's got, somebody's got help.
Yes, no, we are.
Down the other side.
They've got it. Can you walk forward?
She has got a great twinkle, and it comes out very readily, and it puts people at their ease very quickly.
We had the whole rehearsal outside us last night, all night long.
What? The bands and
everything. 5 o'clock till 5. I feel like sort of something that's been put in a carriage.
Like a horse.
Yes.
So, as on the day, I think you'll be coming in straight to Churchill.
Sorry.
And then you're going the north side.
So she knows when to be serious. She knows when to wink at a bishop, but when not to, which I think is a rather endearing quality.
Oh, yes, bishops. Sorry, should have called you.
Good morning, Your Majesty. Good morning, boys. Good morning.
The first train the Queen comes in the wonderful Victorian red silk velvet and ermine train, is quite heavy, apart from anything.
We've got a rope at last.
Good. Does it feel comfortable, Mal?
Yeah. Keep up a little bit. Boys, putting it off there.
Okay.
So for those small boys, it was teaching them how to hold it properly, keeping it straight so that it didn't bunch up as she was walking along. And it didn't pull her backwards, because if they didn't keep to the right pace with her, she would be pulled backwards because it was on a sort of strapped sort of thing on her shoulders. So that took a bit of getting used to.
You look as if you're about to jump out of a plane with a parachute.
Yes, yes, we had a really good night because they had the whole rehearsal past our window.
Oh, so you've slept so well?
I slept so well.
Well, at least it's not the night before, I suppose.
Ahead of final rehearsals, the crown jewels have started to arrive at the Abbey.
Mark, can I just feel the weight of that thing? Thank you. That's easy. That's all I needed to do.
Do you lift this one as well?
There was a big debate about whether we should all be wearing gloves. And then it was decided that probably we were more at danger of dropping things if we were wearing gloves than without them. So, no gloves.
You can do it with 2 hands, yeah.
They're beautifully weighted.
Yes. Yeah.
That's very helpful, thank you.
The Prince of Wales has a key role in the coronation.
Yes. Wow, look at that food.
This is a chance for the Prince to support the King as he prepares for his big day.
I think what struck me particularly is how extraordinarily affectionate they are. They're clearly a very close family, you know, of all the generations. And in a sense, you felt you're part of a family occasion as well as, you know, a royal occasion and a national occasion.
Archbishop, good morning.
Good morning, Your Royal Highness.
Very nice to see you.
It's very nice to see you. Oh, Your Royal Highness, how lovely to see you.
Very nice to see you too.
You're on now, sir, I think.
And I've got
It looks amazing, doesn't it?
Sorry.
It's out of this world. And Garter is going to lead you up there, sir.
So will you just walk? You just walk towards me, will you?
Yeah.
Walk towards you, nod, and you'll come up, and I will.
And just follow him. And if you ever get lost, sir, in this, you just look confident and bow.
One of the Prince of Wales' duties is to present the King with the Stole Royal. This garment, made of golden silk, symbolises the sacred nature of kingship.
So, Your Royal Highness, if you put the stole over the King's head,
and we will.
And then the bishops will make sure
We'll make sure it gets hooked on.
properly. We bring in the robe. So the robe goes on, and then, Your Royal Highness, if you come and fix the clasp.
She goes into
into a little slot. Done it.
That's it. Yep. Okay. Let's try that again. It's quite a small catch. On the day, it's not going to go in. So that works.
You haven't got sausage fingers left, no.
No. Well, I hope I get it in the right place.
You're conscious of the deep history of coronation rite. We have been doing it like this for 1,000 years. You're also aware that you are seeing a little glimpse of the future. Here is a future king. What is it like for him to watch this happen? He has to be aware that, you know, there will come a day when he too will be thinking about facing this challenge.
Receive the royal scepter, the ensign of kingly power and justice.
I think we'd always known that His Majesty, you know, all those years of Prince of Wales, how he was a man who felt things very deeply and very passionately, and always spoke very passionately, sometimes unsettling people because he did speak with such passion.
May the Spirit of the Lord who anointed Jesus at his baptism so anoint you this day, that you might exercise authority with wisdom and direct your counsels with grace, that by your service and ministry to all your people, justice and mercy may be seen in all the earth.
And seeing that close up, you realise that, yeah, this is a man who believes very deeply and passionately and really cares, really cares about things, and cares about people. So the fanfare begins. He wants to give of himself for the good of others.
I have a memory that is probably about as good as our spaniels. In other words, 0. And the blessing of God Almighty, the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit be amongst you and remain with you now and... No, that can't be right.
Always.
You must have said this before.
I knew that.
Yes. Be with you and remain with you always. Amen. Amen. He gave me a nice smile, nodded his head, but that was a glitch.
So, the homage.
The homage is the moment when those present pledge their allegiance to the king.
So, Your Royal Highness, step straight in and kneel.
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you, and faith and truth I will bear unto you, as your liege man of life and limb, so help me God.
So I think the moment of the Prince of Wales kissing his father, the homage, it's a moment that a lot of people saw and kissed the king.
Do I stand up on here?
That really wonderful connection.
Yes. Wasn't it that side?
Your left side?
It is normally the left side.
Left side? Do that side again. Your left cheek is better.
I mean, priceless. Do you want to hold them, take them back? I think at this point you might just leave them with the bishops. And then the bishops can place them on the shrine altar.
Right. Just take that, right.
So there will be a little pause there.
This thing gets creepy everywhere. Are you staying in a hotel?
Yes, we're staying in the Novotel straight opposite Lambeth Palace.
Oh, is he?
My wife's here as well.
Good. She's beat her.
No. She's going to watch it on television.
It's so frustrating. We can't pick other arms of it.
No.
Today's rehearsals are over.
You're not coming to the dress rehearsal?
I'm on Friday, actually. George and I are back here on Friday.
I'm here tomorrow.
You're here tomorrow?
Yes, here.
The King and Queen have only 2 more days to practice before the big day.
Thank you very much, ladies and gentlemen. See some of you again later. Or your stand-ins.
Much later, really.
Not much later.
With the ceremony now only hours away, the anointing oil has arrived from Jerusalem.
Well, this is a moment.
Isn't it just? Yes, what an extraordinary few days. Seeing the Abbey come together has been absolutely marvellous.
I am stunned by the work everyone here has done, and I've never seen it looking better.
I have the oil. So
oh,
thank
you.
Get it. There we are.
Goodness
I know.
me.
Isn't it extraordinary? Yes.
Gosh, you could make a fortune selling that.
The King will be crowned monarch of the United Kingdom and 14 other independent nations, which are known as the Commonwealth Realms. To celebrate this bond, the King has invited the realms' leaders to a pre-coronation lunch.
It's lovely, familiar faces.
Thank you for coming all the way.
It's a once-in-a-lifetime event, and we've just had the death of Her late Majesty, and she did 70 years of exceptional service to the Commonwealth. And now she's being succeeded, and I think that he'll make a success of it.
It is very important that they're there, and that they want to be there, they want to be part of it, is extremely important for the future of the Commonwealth.
Making me feel brilliant. He's a very charming person, a very warm and a very friendly person. I admire the way he communicates, he interacts with you. That, to me, speaks to the measure of our king.
With well-wishers filling the streets of London, His Majesty has one more important duty to fulfill.
Nice to meet you.
Where have you all come from?
The United States. Yes, sir. Yes, we did.
Special.
Special. Very nice to see you. Oh, is that me? Hello, Lee. Come and say hi to you, Lee, when you're back over here, but I hope you get better soon.
Yeah, bless you.
lovely day tomorrow, sir.
So much.
Right.
Time.
Having a question from Germany.
Yeah. I'm sure you will.
Good luck for tomorrow.
So much.
You guys are camping on?
We are staying.
Are you kidding with this, guys?
Yeah.
It's amazing.
So nice to see you.
Congratulations. All the way from Australia. Lovely.
We were sort of picked up by coach outside my flat with outriders and everything at 6:30 in the morning. That seemed totally surreal, to sort of go through central London in a bus with all these various people. Some people dressed already for the service, some of us ready to be dressed. And then we arrived at Buckingham Palace, and it was like being in a play, because literally walked in, makeup, hair, costume.
Right, I'm actually kind of worried.
You're very straight. Together. Morning, Nick. Where is it?
But it wasn't until we were all ready that we actually all came together to see each other for the first time. She hadn't seen our dresses, she didn't know what we were going to look like, and we hadn't seen her dress. And that was a very special moment. That was when it was quite like a wedding. It was like, you know, it was the bridesmaids going to see the bride.
And just be careful of the
Yeah, you won't tread on my dress with that sword. It's going to be a proper
short steps.
Yeah. There we are, with all the lads. Yeah.
That might be
England flag. So, do we go and get ourselves organised down there?
Come on, otherwise you get pulled over. Morning.
There was just a really exciting moment of just getting them into that carriage the first time, and then we knew we were off.
And I thought back of, you know, being 2 years old and watching the Queen's coronation, you know, on a tiny black and white television. And there goes this golden coach with my sister in it. I can't explain the feeling because it's so surreal and this cannot be happening. Yeah, it was quite a moment.
We were ready, and we were ready to go out and face literally the world. Yeah.
Going into the Abbey, I think I had that nervousness all the time. She's quite a bit smaller than I am. I'm feeling, oh my God, is she going to be all right?
We often remark upon how grateful we are that our schools did a lot of drama, and both of us spent time on stage. It's really good training. Apart from the fact it gives you a bit of confidence, but it teaches you about learning lines and making sure you do the rehearsals and understand what's involved. So you get it absolutely right.
The King took a profound interest in the coronation. There were a number of significant alterations.
Lord Kamal, representing British Muslims.
This time, other faiths were present in a way that was inconceivable in earlier coronations.
And next, Lord Patel, representing the Hindu community.
There was a diversity, there was an energy about the way we were offering back to the nation and the Commonwealth what kind of a community we are.
Presentation of regalia complete. The moment of crowning has arrived.
Yes, it's about a man born to be king being crowned, but actually how much it says about every life and every human destiny. For me, it was about the sort of the human destiny under God, sort of writ large, and with, you know, the most gorgeous jewels.
God save the king!
I, William, Prince of Wales, pledge my loyalty to you as your liege man of life and limb. So help me God.
The Prince was sort of touching the crown. I mean, the idea of that is, it is partly about a sort of pledge that I will help you wear the crown. And I think His Majesty sort of mouthed, "Thank you, William."
She was obviously incredibly nervous. She doesn't show it a lot, but I know her well enough. No, I'm not at all nervous, but of course she was. I mean, you know, this is the most extraordinary moment in your life, which the whole world is going to see.
There was quite a funny moment when I thought she was sort of slightly backing away from the crown, but I think that was just because she was worried that the Archbishop was going to tread on her dress, so she was just sort of pulling herself back.
I think he was very proud of her. And I think there was a sense of, I can't believe it, we've made it.
What we'll do, at an appropriate moment, we'll give them 3 cheers. And what I always do in the Navy is to throw my hand up in the right-hand side. 3 cheers for the King and the Queen. Hip, hip, hooray! Hip, hooray! Hip, hooray! That's what we do. Perfect. Okay. Now we'll have to wait.
Well, it was wonderful because everybody was in the, it's a sort of grand entrance hall. There's all the household. And everybody gave them 3 cheers.
3 cheers for the King and Queen. A bit. Hooray! Hooray! Hooray!
Getting back to Buckingham Palace, what a relief. It's done and it's been brilliant. It was sort of phew, you know, almost take your shoes off.
Well, ask any actor who comes off stage, you know, having done a performance that they really put a lot into, is that kind of relief.
I knew can't.
And then to walk out to the terraces to see, I think it was 4,500 soldiers lined up in immaculate order.
3 cheers for His Majesty, the King, and Her Majesty, the Queen! Hip, hip! Hip, hip! Hip, hip!
He just loved that moment.
There was such an air of celebration. I mean, it's rather sort of cliche, but you could sort of feel the love. And then this extraordinary thing, which certainly we weren't expecting, being called out onto the balcony.
The King and the Queen will go out first, followed by, with the pages, followed by Your Royal Highnesses, the Waleses, and then the rest of the royal family.
Looking up the Mall, this amazing noise and the sea of faces and the cheering, I mean, it was mind-blowing. There's a wonderful shot just of the two of them. I mean, it makes me cry thinking of it. There they are.
With the coronation over, it's back to work for the royal household. But there are summer highlights, which everyone looks forward to.
I'm a coachman at the Royal Mews, and we're just preparing for day 3 of Royal Ascot. It's the first big event since the coronation. Today we're running 3 bay teams, that's 12 horses, with just a grey team in front for the King and the Queen. So in Windsor Great Park, the royal family get out of the cars and into the carriages. And then once all the guests are in the carriages, we'll be given a hats off and off we go.
Hello and welcome to Royal Ascot for day 3 here at the most famous racecourse on the planet.
Today is a poignant moment for the King. This is his first Royal Ascot without his mother. She was a passionate lover of racing.
The late Queen had a tremendous ability to understand the horse from when she was a princess, very young. She loved the breeding side of it and tried to develop a horse, as she once said, that can just run faster than someone else's. The King and the Queen have very much committed themselves to carry on the mantle which the late Queen set up for them to inherit.
The King has a horse running in one of the big races of the day.
All right, we're underway. The King George V Stakes, the 1 mile, 4 furlong race, and we've got some local interest in this. Desert Hero is owned by the King. It's going to be quite tough. Burglar is the favourite here, ridden by Frankie Dettori.
Champion jockey Frankie Dettori is racing against the King's horse.
And here comes the King's horse dashing through the middle. It could be a win for His Majesty the King. Yes, it is! Royal Ascot, very royal, as Desert Hero becomes the first winner for King Charles III and Queen Camilla.
He came from absolutely nowhere.
For the King and Queen to have got themselves a gold medal, I mean, it brought the house down. They had tears in their eyes in the box. They were so touched by it.
Well done. First Royal Ascot win. Isn't that amazing?
Yeah, wasn't it? Come on, you would.
My horse was tiny and I was looking at yours and he was weaving his way for it, but I couldn't really tell if it won or not. But when I heard the cheers, it is definitely one. Brilliant. Brilliant.
Never thought you could get through all that.
And how close was it? Brilliant. Brilliant. How amazing. First year, boom, winner. Right?
Yeah. My late mama won this race in 1955.
Oh my God.
So she would have been so thrilled.
I know.
Okay.
I think she'd be more thrilled for you to be here for 5 days straight.
Oh, I don't think I could do another winner. It would be too much.
I think we should make our way to the paddock.
Better go, come on.
Before I miss my ride.
Yeah, all right.
Of course, we're all waiting for Frankie Dettori to see if he might get a win as well, because it's his final Royal Ascot.
Courage Mon Ami is 6-1 at the moment, so Frankie Dettori with a chance.
We've had a King winning, so we now want a Frankie winner. That would just top the day off.
Yeah, not out the question. So they're heading down the hill. Keep an eye on Courage Mon Ami, who's coming well. Frankie Dettori, this could be his crowning glory at Royal Ascot. We've got Coltrane, the local horse, up against Courage Mon Ami into the final furlong. They're neck and neck. Frankie Dettori slides ahead. Courage Mon Ami takes over the running, and it's Courage Mon Ami and Frankie Dettori, his crowning glory at Royal Ascot, a 9th Gold Cup win. Who writes that man's script?
This is a double whammy. We've got the King presenting the trophy to Frankie Dettori. Incredible scenes down here.
I think Queen Elizabeth would be very proud of her son, King Charles, that he's had his first winner, that he's supporting what she loved for so many years, horse racing. He's really took Royal Ascot on board and he's enjoyed the whole package, and may long continue.
It's late summer, and the countryside is in bloom. The King is enjoying one of his passions, nature. Today, he's visiting a stretch of coastline, which is being named in his honour.
We're at one of England's 220 national nature reserves. This one was first established in 1968. But right now, Natural England is working with partners to make this reserve much, much bigger, to make a super national nature reserve covering more than 30 square kilometres. Because what we're in the process of doing in England at the moment is moving beyond what we used to call conservation and moving into a period of nature recovery. So this is a new generation of national nature reserves, and that new generation we're calling the Kings series.
Has it got better and better?
Well, this is dune grassland, and this habitat is fantastic for insects of all kinds, including butterflies, and also...
And a toad.
And here we are, look. Here we are. Now, this is a very rare species, you'll be aware. Natterjack toe with a yellow stripe.
They were originally found in quite a lot of Lincolnshire, in the Fenland as well as along the coast. And now we just have the one population in Lincolnshire.
Because of the loss of their habitat, presumably.
Yes.
But we've had a really good success story. It's the population is booming at the moment.
One of the things about King Charles's contribution on the environmental side is that not only has he got enormous depth to what he thinks and says about all of this, but also enormous longevity on his contribution, of course.
We are faced at the moment with the horrifying effects of pollution in all its cancerous forms.
Right now, up to 15 million people are at risk in the dry lands of Africa.
The conclusion I draw is that the future of mankind can be assured only if we rediscover ways in which to live as part of nature, not apart from her.
He is, I think, possibly the most significant environmentalist the world has seen, given that he's been doing this for 50 years, and he's been ahead of the curve on pretty much every single subject.
It's rather wonderful to see quite so many butterflies at the moment,
Yes.
suddenly.
You've timed your visit very well. The sun's just come out. We've got some butterflies at the front.
well
Do you want to go through them?
Yeah, sure. We had the Essex skipper in the front.
An Essex skipper.
Which is lovely.
Mm.
And we know it's an Essex skipper because of the antennas. Would you
Look
like
at
to
that.
release one?
I'd simply love to.
Of course.
Which one?
We have a gatekeeper, if you'd like to release.
Right.
Just simply open, just turn the top.
Yes.
engine.
Yeah, I imagine with the sun out, it'd be quite keen to fly away.
Yes.
Probably.
Here we go, lovely.
I think his motivation comes from his love of nature, his continuing interactions with nature, and the fact that we still can make a difference if we wish to. In England, there's no really, truly wild habitat left, so we do have to intervene and we do need to manage in order to hang on to these wonderful species of animals and plants that we have here.
I couldn't agree more. Yes. Yeah. But of course, half the thing has been the combination of man and nature over all these generations, which produce so many of the fascinating habitats and species that have come. And it's how to maintain that sort of relationship seems to me the important thing.
Like all environmentalists, the King, I think, is an optimist. Considering the effort that he still puts in to trying to get people to come together and think about solutions, you have to be an optimist to want to invest the time in that kind of process. So I think we need to wander down, Your Majesty.
Right. Kind of wonderful to see that sea lavender, isn't it, at the
It's lovely, isn't it?
Just a short moment when you can see it.
Exactly. Yeah. And up here, look, we just have a kestrel to wave us farewell as we walk down.
Those keen eyes.
The King and Queen's first year is nearing its end, and the pace has been unrelenting. It's September, and the King and Queen have returned to Balmoral to recharge their batteries.
I think Scotland is where they both relax. He's been there all his life for long summer holidays, and I think she has really grown to love it.
Officially, this is royal downtime.
Yeah.
But for the King, the day job continues.
Mr. Good morning.
Good
morning, sir. Yes. Another day, another box, sir.
The Chancellor of the Exchequer.
Exactly. So the red boxes come in pretty much every day of the year, except Christmas Day and Easter Monday. It is quite an interesting crop today, which is it's handy. Yeah. They contain all of the documents that the King's going to have to look at, be they from the government, from the church, from the military. The Foreign Secretary asks if Your Majesty would send a message to the King of Sweden, who's, can you believe it's his Golden Jubilee in the middle of this month.
Oh, great. Is this in Swedish?
Yes, James.
Splendid. So I hope that's right. Is it the Swedish?
Is it? Well, it is.
Yeah, right. You never know if somebody's fed you something frightful to say.
That would be very...
You've no idea that you've done it. Right, no, exactly.
So the King is an incredibly hard worker. I think that's one of the things that pretty much everybody knows about him. He works till very late at night, often well beyond midnight.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, sir. Then we move on to the Ministry of Defence. And of course, after 50 years as Prince of Wales, he's developed huge experience and expertise in an incredibly wide range of issues and interests.
It's always quite fun looking through to see if I can find names, you know, which remind me of people I served with.
Yes.
In the Navy, who
may have sons. I mean, I did find one last year.
Oh.
So that's interesting, that name.
Yes.
Because he'd been a commanding officer of a mine hunter at the same time as I had.
Gosh, how's
and when I asked, and it was true, it was his son who'd become an admiral.
It was his son?
Just shows how long ago. Anyway, so I wrote to my old friend and said, I'm so glad to have discovered it.
Challenge as always with these things to make sure we
I know,
don't
not to put your
smudge them
great
along.
finger on it.
Exactly.
Which has happened.
It has indeed, sir. It has indeed.
It's a tradition that every September, the monarch invites some special guests to Balmoral.
Oh, Prime Minister, how are you?
Good evening, Your Majesty. Very nice to see you again. Good evening, Your Majesty.
Hello.
Hello. Lovely to meet you.
Thank you for having us.
How were the games?
They were splendid.
Yeah.
At least
They're quite
it was reasonably dry.
It is not, my usual weekly audience. It's a group of friends, family, invited guests who are staying for a weekend. Lots of dinners, lunches, lots of walks. And lots of eating. I mean, a lot of food. We have to figure out how to work up an appetite in the next couple of hours before dinner.
God, I'm sorry about that. We're going to send you out for a run.
Right, that's what Johnny was saying, but such a nice evening, actually. I think it's been an incredibly successful year. I mean, I've had the pleasure and the privilege of spending time with him over that year, and I've just seen him do it in his own way, as, of course, he should do, and do it brilliantly.
I just love the way all the sun comes through the curtains.
Yeah, it's marvellous, isn't it?
What's this one here?
Which one?
They are an extraordinary team, and I think it's whether they've sort of had to fight to get there or whether it's just because they've been through a lot together, and it's made them have a really strong bond.
Ja, dat is hier best. Sorry, is wel dus.
Yes, we are. Sorry, is it more?
They're both huge walkers, very fit, both of them.
So well exercised.
Her with her mad dogs.
That's the end of the day, man. It's here before on the left, like that.
You should.
Stand back there. Not fishing. This fish rest silent.
She is his rock. And I can't actually emphasize that enough. She's somebody who is completely loyal, and she isn't somebody who has huge highs and lows. He brings to her everything. I'm not talking about all of this, but, he has such a knowledge and interest in so many different things which she wouldn't really have been open to if she hadn't met him.
So it comes, they rush there and boats out on the bridge for hours.
You can't get it to come.
They're yin and yang, really. They really are polar opposites, but I think it works brilliantly. Most of us, as we get to this sort of age, are thinking, yes, quiet times, but theirs is just going to go like that, isn't it?